Hello, my name is Kaitlin Drisko, and welcome to the program today called Making Mosaic. Santa Monica Mosaic is an important program for the Conservancy, and I thought it would be interesting for you all to hear more about how the program comes together and a little more insight to the people who make this program and bring it to us. I've had the pleasure to work with this team over the last year, and I think you'll be very excited to see who they are and how they do the magic that they do.
Thank you, Kaitlin. This idea, as we were thinking about it, seems so interesting because it's been 5 years for us since we started Mosaic. My background is in print journalism, so and architecture and preservation. So this particular series just struck me as being an interesting endeavor for me.
And this video is a very interesting endeavor for me. And then I spend most of my time behind the camera in the production of Mosaic. So I'm especially delighted to have this opportunity to come out front with Libby and talk about the program, and also Kaitlin, to thank you for your ongoing support of Mosaic.
Maybe you could give us a little background into the origin of the program itself and what brought the two of you to decide to create the Mosaic series.
It all began in the spring of 2020. We were at the beginning of a pandemic, and it was obvious that the Conservancy needed to enter the brave new world of virtual communication, virtual programming. And so how to do that, what to come up with. It was also a time of racial reckoning and reconciliation in the nation, coming out of the George Floyd case. And so we thought that was a great opportunity for the Conservancy to, again, reaffirm its commitment to social consciousness, to racial equality. So the result was Mosaic, which we feel, accomplished both of those objectives.
We realized that what Santa Monica is a compilation of diverse communities, thus the Mosaic. Each of the tesserae in the Mosaic represents a community. And so that was our inspiration. It'll be a mosaic. And we went through the programs specifically focusing on the individual communities in Santa Monica.
Libby, could I ask the moment that the two of you, with your background, I know at the time you were both on the program committee and you were looking at how to program, as Steve described, for the pandemic. But what was the moment when you looked at Steve and the two of you made this leap to say, how do we bring this kind of a program to life?
Well, we had, as you probably remember, we had live programs at the Rap Saloon. That was one of our first ideas, endeavors. We thought they were quite successful. And so we wanted to continue. But obviously, we couldn't do it in person to person in real life anymore. So that's when we segued to Zoom.
So if I might ask, so going from live programming to creating this environment that you've created with the branding and the beautiful introductions and the logo and the kind of look and feel of the shows, Steve, how did you kind of come up with this, the graphic and the creative concept for the program?
Well, basically, from the start, we wanted to treat it more like a TV show than a webinar. There were a lot of webinars coming out at that time back in 2020. Everybody was doing it. How do we make ours different and more impactful? And we thought, let's just really focus on doing it, professionally right from the beginning of with the opening titles, with theme music, with scripted presentations. And we also divided these shows carefully into segments. So we varied the content, kept the shows interesting. And then we allowed a section for audience engagement.
So I think we can just jump in with me now asking you, Steve, specifically about the graphic.
We were looking for a graphic example to use as a logo that said multiplicity, that said, that spoke to the diversity of Santa Monica. And we went through a lot of different ideas for a logo. And, we were looking at the photos that we've taken for the series, and we saw this, the entrance to City Hall. And my gosh, those mosaics, those tiles that would be really a great logo. So we went with that, but surprisingly, we didn't right away come up with a name. It took us, a day or two, and there was this one of our staff, one of our team members, had a eureka moment. It's like, oh my gosh, why don't we call it Mosaic? We were staring at these mosaic tiles. We were laying them in as our logo, and it's a perfect name.
Steve, in creating the Mosaic lecture series, it's really more than a lecture series, as you're describing, with all of the production quality and the creation of an experience for us as viewers. How does your background feed into the programming?
I have a media background, and I've worked in television and in print media. And so it was a way for me to, in retirement, take my experience and apply it to something worthwhile within the community. And in my case, and in this situation, that would be helping to spread the messaging, the mission of the Conservancy through various media ideas.
I think the answer to this question is that because I have had an experience as a editor and reporter for many years, that I'm pretty comfortable asking questions and being out there.
For sure.
But I think what it's one thing to do all this. It's another thing to look at yourself and see how awfully self-conscious you can get. So I worked with my yoga teacher, who's also an actor, and she helped me. We would go through the scripts together, and she would help me to what to emphasize, what not to emphasize, to slow down and quit swiveling in your chair, Libby. She was really, really helpful.
Well, I understand you both have some support in production, and maybe tell us a little bit about the people that you've recruited or that have joined you to make these productions.
First of all, we have a partnership with the Santa Monica History Museum. They contribute their considerable expertise and photo image archive material to the program as we need it. It's another point of evolution for the series that makes it better and keeps it growing. We have a support team made up of Catherine Azimi, the manager of communications for the Conservancy, and she handles our promotion, strategic promotion. She does an amazing job of pulling in the kinds of audiences we need, to make this series work. In addition, we have our technical director, Adina Bernheimer, who has this amazing facility to kind of run a very orderly rehearsal and broadcast, but she does it in her own sensitive, personal, relaxed way.
If Libby is handing it over to Mario, Libby is on. I always think of it as like the Muppets or something, like Libby's up here, and then she calls up Mario, and Mario comes on before Libby drops off. So you always want to wait for that next person to come on before you drop off. If there's no one there, then a big screen flashes to the audience like Santa Monica Conservancy or Mario, and it's tacky.
Sure.
But actually, no program would have gotten launched had we no content. And so I'd like to really emphasize the help of the program committee members. Many of our ideas for speakers came from them. people they knew in the community, leads that they followed.
Libby, how are the Mosaic shows developed, including how do you choose topics and speakers and select visuals, as well as doing all the research of photos and narratives that you find for these amazing programs?
Right away, we decided to begin at the beginning. And we started with an homage to the Tongva, which is the indigenous group whose ground we stand on. So we started with that, and we found through various contacts that I had, talking to people at UCLA, talking to people in the community, talking to people at the History Museum, we found our first speaker, who is a pro and was able to present a wonderful program about the Tongva with fantastic illustrations. So then we decided to move right through the history.
Happen to have a compilation of some of our early shows that illustrates the core spirit of the program.
Our speaker, Desiree Martinez, will talk on the history of the tribe.
The language that we have is, it's because of missionization. A lot of families lost that language.
Our speaker, Chris Vargas, will explain the development of the Mexican era.
So that was one of the reasons. And again, it was the Land Act of 1851 that contributed to the demise of the ranchos and the breaking up of these large land grants.
Our lecture tonight focuses on the erased history of Belmar. Historian Allison Rose Jefferson and social practice artist April Banks will talk about these neighborhoods and the ambitious project called Belmar History and Art.
The programming includes an outdoor exhibition installation of 16 panels, which I created the content for, and a large sculpture created by April Banks.
Our featured guest, Dr. Dennis Agawa, will reflect on his personal memories.
And my dad was determined to come back to Santa Monica after the war, but he lost everything. He lost the store. They had built a house, a new house in Michigan and Lincoln Boulevard. And they lost all that.
Our speaker, Stephen Sass, will trace the origins of the Jewish migration to Santa Monica and its lasting impact.
Two of the 3rd Street merchants were the Roth brothers, Norman and Myron, who came here from Illinois. Norman was elected a city trustee in 1894. Parenthetically, I should add that as in Los Angeles, while Jews and other minorities were elected to public office in the pioneer period, they were soon to be excluded from politics and other social networks in the early 20th century due to the prejudices of later arrivals.
The church in Ocean Park is a community asset. We are people of many different backgrounds and beliefs working together to make a positive difference in the community.
Libby, how do you prepare your speakers for the program?
Good question. I have to say there's a moment of euphoria. When I get a speaker, I'm so excited. I don't want to do anything more. However, you have to do more. You got to talk to them about, are they going to have a script? Or do you want me to ask you questions? Do you have your own photos? Do you want to run your own photos? You don't have any photos. So these are sort of the things that happen after you get somebody who you think is going to be fantastic.
Steve, you obviously devote a lot of time and effort to the visual presentation of the Mosaic series. How do you keep your PowerPoint life separate from your private life?
That's always a challenge. I really tend to get immersed in my work, but it is important to, keep these two lives separate. And yet, my wonderful colleagues at the Conservancy make that really difficult, because recently they presented me with this special T-shirt, and I guess they expect me to wear it on weekends and when I'm just hanging out. And I mean, it makes it tough to separate the two lines, but, I'll deal with it because I know there are expectations.
Libby, there have been some awkward moments on the show. Could you tell us about some of those and what you thought was some of your funniest moments?
Glad you think they're funny, Kaitlin. While the cemetery is closed to the public, visits can be planned.
Cut.
Cut. Ready?
Rolling.
Members of the Marquez family continue to maintain and oversee the cemetery, now a cultural heritage, now a historic cultural monument. Cut. While the cemetery is closed to the public, visits can be arranged through the family. Well, one of the most recent awkward moments is on the Sacred Springs program. We had divided the program into three parts. The first part would be Bob Ramirez talking about the Sacred Springs in Cotobonga. Then the second part would be Desiree Martinez talking about who are the Tongva. Then Bob would come back and talk about the Sacred Springs today and the plans for the future and all that stuff. So we go along and I introduce him. He gives a great talk. Then I introduce Desiree, great talk. And then I say, now it's time for questions. We will continue the program with some questions. Oh, Bob,
Yeah.
it occurred to me
Yes,
that I forgot your second half. Please forgive me.
That was one of my questions.
I got carried away with the program.
I can whip through it quickly because I
I
know.
jumped into the questions.
Okay, let's pick it up.
Been many awkward moments, but I think this following one that you will see, a clip that we happen to have, was one of that was most particularly embarrassing to me. I am going to thank the program committee, also the co-producers, Stephen, Stephen, my good friend, and me.
Well, Stephen, Libby, it's just been my pleasure to get to talk to you today and learn more about how you develop these programs and bring these people together and your production crew, really making these amazing programs for us. I'd like to thank you both and point out the importance of this programs that celebrates the history of our diverse cultures and communities here in Santa Monica. And while the Conservancy's mission is place-based and understanding our built environment, these programs really help us understand the stories and the people who have shaped our city. And this is amazing work that you do. So thank you both so much.
I think that for me, I've learned an awful lot about Santa Monica. I am not a Santa Monica resident, and I've just been feeling bereft that I'm not a Santa Monica resident. I'm just a little bit over the border. I've enjoyed working with Steve. It's been sort of like a married couple. We get along and then we don't, and we tangle, and I hope that after all that tanglement, we come out friends and with a better program.
Absolutely. It's all that energy and that tension sometimes that I think helps make the program, what it's been. So, Libby, I too have enjoyed working with you and look forward to working with you again in our fifth season. And Kaitlin, we certainly have appreciated your support on the program, and we look forward to your continued support and your input as far as some of the big picture subjects and themes and campaigns and things that we might take on to be in alignment with the Conservancy on their projects.